The opinions and suggestions expressed on the following program are solely those of the participants and not necessarily endorsed by program sponsors or any radio station, media company, or platform broadcasting this program. The following program is a product of Causeway, LLC. The information in this broadcast is not intended as investment, tax, or financial advice. Matthew Moore is not a licensed investment advisor and speaks solely from his experience and opinions. All information in this broadcast is for entertainment or educational purposes only. Matthew Moore, Causeway, LLC, and the company or platform broadcasting this program is not responsible for the success or failure of any person's investment decisions or purchases. Matthew Moore, Causeway, LLC, and the company or platform broadcasting this program makes no and expressly disclaims all representations, warranties, and guarantees with respect to this broadcast and its sponsors. Investing in any market is inherently risky and can be financially dangerous. Invest at your own risk.
Government officials will continue to inform you as this story unfolds.
Welcome to Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore, the Bitcoin-focused radio show that's waking the masses to the fiat money Ponzi scheme. Money is changing, and your freedom is at stake. So stick around and learn how to empower yourself for this new digital age. Now, here's your host, Matthew J. Moore.
Yeehaw! Here we are. Welcome back, America, and welcome back, world. No matter where you are or what you're doing, I want to welcome, that's right, every single one of you Bitcoin lovers, newbies, and experts, because guess what? You are now listening to Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore, one of the only syndicated radio shows dedicated, in fact, to that topic that we talk about every single week, known as Bitcoin. So, yes, I want you to stick around because you're probably going to learn something. We talk about money, we talk about liberty, we talk about history, technology, energy, politics. There's a plethora of things that goes into this topic known as Bitcoin, and we're here to educate you. So buckle up. On today's show, we're actually going to talk about this idea of sustainability, the environment, and how does Bitcoin actually fit into that? You know, we've talked loosely about it when we were just in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but we're going to dive into it a little bit more since we're now syndicated. It's a great topic to discuss because there's always misconceptions around Bitcoin and the environment. And after all, Bitcoin mining is one of the most important elements, and we really need to properly understand what it means for our environment. And so we're going to answer those questions like, is Bitcoin's energy consumption a bad thing for the environment? And what do people need to factor in when talking about energy and pollution? And maybe, just maybe, you've heard the rumor that Bitcoin is going to bring us closer to a global warming catastrophe. So I would encourage you, stick around because we today are going to answer all these questions and more. But before we dive into this, I have to introduce you to my male supermodel who also doubles as my co-host. His name is Eric Cooper, and yes, he is my male supermodel. You heard that right. Eric, welcome back to the show, you good-looking hunk.
Hey, I appreciate that. And here's the thing, is the reason why I love these topics today is because just because you can does not mean that you should. This is something I tell my children every single day, and just because you can find one acute angle to tell me why Bitcoin and its energy usage is going to damn the earth, just stop. Just because you can. There's a lot of people who are going to try to attack what is this unstoppable force. They're going to come up with something. And you know what? You write a headline and you release it into the world, and then everybody jumps on it with no actual point of reference. So I'm excited. Plus, with the company that we keep in this room right now, I would rather be nowhere else.
It never gets old. In fact, also in the house is producer Brian LaRue. He is sitting right next to me on my left. He's running the soundboard. He's making sure that we sound excellent to the ear. He is also the mastermind, in fact, if you're wondering, behind our awesome intros and outros. So he does it all. If you actually have maybe an audio project, maybe something to mix, maybe a track to make, he's the guy. So Brian, welcome back, man.
Hey, Matt, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Now, I want you to tell people if they liked what they heard and they're like, you know what, man, Brian's really talented. Maybe I want to, put together a podcast or a radio show myself. Where would they go?
Well, if you like the intro and original music, I can do a lot of different things, but you can go to beyondyouproductions.com and check me out there.
That's right. In fact, we are also sitting in Blue Studio here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They are so kind to open up their doors so we can record every one of these episodes. I would encourage you, if you've got some marketing solutions, you can go check them out at SoonerMarketingSolutions.com. And again, that's SoonerMarketingSolutions.com and Blue Studio.
And Matt, I'm going to go ahead and say this is someone right now is in the car Googling Eric Cooper supermodel, and you're not going to like what you find, but Brian does make us actually sound good, and I feel like I emceed a circus this weekend. I don't know, well, that's another story, but I want to go ahead and bring in the gentlemen that are joining us today. Right here and to my immediate right is a man from Nakamoto Partners, Charlie Spears. He is a staple of this program and has been for the past year and a half plus. So, Charlie, welcome, sir.
I'm glad to be back. It's weird to hear a topic about Bitcoin and environmentalism.
Definitely. And then also we have chartered financial analyst, and that is Andrew Ryan. Andrew, if anybody is pushing the supermodel, that's probably you. So welcome. Yeah, there you go. It's a low bar.
Hey, Eric, how are you?
Again, not as good as you are looking.
Well, I was just thinking, I've been a energy trader for 15 years, so this will be a good segue. It'll be interesting
100%.
to explore this topic.
Yeah, no doubt. In fact, let's start it right here, guys. It is a controversial topic, but is Bitcoin? And we're going to start with this question. It's kind of like a 30,000 foot view, so that way we can start the topic right. But is Bitcoin enemy number one to the environment, or is Bitcoin the green revolution that we're looking for? I know. Like I said, we're going to unpack this massive topic, but maybe it's both, maybe it's one, maybe it's the other. What is your take on this?
Bitcoin uses a ton of energy and will continue to use even more energy. I think most people have misconceptions about why the energy is used and if it's justified, and most people don't understand the basic things about energy. I like to say that energy is correlated with human flourishing, has been for thousands of generations, and I think that will continue. And I think if you want renewable energy, which has certain challenges with its development and expansion, Bitcoin mining actually comes in and is kind of like a silver bullet. We can talk about that.
Yeah, I think, and it's important to think about that Bitcoin mining, the purpose of Bitcoin mining is to solve the double spend problem. And you to not go too deep into it, but basically Bitcoin mining is a way to have a global lottery so someone in the world can decide the order of transactions every 10 minutes. And so that's its primary usage, but it does use energy, and I think that's a good thing.
All right, Charlie, let's talk demand response. More precisely, what is demand response, and how has this historically been handled from a grid management standpoint?
This is a very big topic. I'm an off-grid miner, so I plug into the grid on small scale, but basically, a big overview of the American electric grid. First of all, it's very complex, and it's the absolute most underpinning thing in society. Energy, a lot of people just kind of plug something into the wall and just works, but there's a host, it's extremely complex. There's a whole host of systems that go into that. And so we have power production all across the country that's distributed across vast distances, and this is managed. It is not so simple as producing power at point A and it going consistently to point B, or rather the millions of other point Bs that it goes to in your homes, to the factories, whatever. So there's a mechanic in the electrical grid whereby the electrical grid kind of ramps up and down, and it really helps to be able to have ways of turning parts of it on and off and responding to variable demand. And so this is what demand response is. We have complex systems of people and groups that consume energy, like an aluminum smelter, that can ramp up and down. And historically, this has been a really crucial way of managing the grid. We see this happen in Texas all the time when Texas goes up and down. They have a very complex system of demand response whereby people who have contracts with the utility themselves, ERCOT, they'll turn off and on demand. And Bitcoin totally juices our ability to conduct demand response in a way we've never seen before.
So you're saying that Bitcoin is a unique tool that allows us to turn things on and off depending on how demand is.
Yeah, I think people don't people underestimate how important that is. People just think, oh, it's just the grid; it just kind of turns on. No, you've probably read or seen somewhere that our grid has huge issues, or that some Texas grid has huge issues, and that's true. This is almost kind of like looking at. We've never had the opportunity or even the ability to do this kind of thing at scale, and I will go into that later about how Bitcoin actually does that.
So with what Charlie's saying, Andrew, do you think that Bitcoin mining might play a role in, we're talking about demand response here, in a more modernization of our grid moving forward due to this unique ability that Bitcoin mining will allow for?
Yeah, so if like an aluminum smelter, it can turn off, but it has a lot more ramping, and things get cold and things get so it's a lot harder to turn an aluminum smelter off. A Bitcoin miner can be turned off in seconds or minutes, and that really does. You can change the supply. You can change the supply to balance everything out, but having the capability of curtailing demand is also really helpful for just the reliability of the grid.
Yeah, it's like a large Bitcoin mine, say in Texas, would pull about as much power as, say, like half of Dallas. A lot of people see this as like a very negative thing, but we can't just say, okay, all you residents of Dallas, you have to turn off all your power in the next 10 minutes, or else the whole grid's gonna have rolling blackouts. And we can't really do this in, as Andrew mentioned, an aluminum smelting plant. This is like stuff where you have mission critical things that got to stay online, and you got to line of sight for hours ahead, days ahead to ramp up and down for, say, 2 hours. With Bitcoin, it's literally you flip a switch and you just turn off and on energy demand. It's like an infinite energy variable sink almost. It is one of the most revolutionary things we've seen in energy distribution and production.
So, okay, this kind of goes into my third question, which you guys can answer this, but I mean, it sounds like that Bitcoin mining is going to allow for, civilization to advance by unlocking potentially more energy. And even if countries so I've been to South Africa twice, and they do have an energy grid problem where, parts of the country have to go hours without power, and they have to allocate resources. If South Africa really jumped on board with Bitcoin mining, could that help solve something like that? Or is that a different situation?
Well, Bitcoin can be a buyer of first resort. And that can you can use Bitcoin miners to financially start in South Africa, they could build more power plants because they know that they can find Bitcoin miners to be a buyer of first resort, and that helps finance the creation of more supply.
Yeah, I'll expand on that. One of our theses when we talk about energy in the world and environmentalism is not that energy is scarce. Rather, we have barely begun to tap into just the tip of the iceberg of the energy we can access. What we need to be stewards of is how we produce that energy and how we manage that. And so if we look at less developed nations, like many nations in Africa, they have less developed infrastructure, but that's not because power doesn't exist there. One of the largest dams in the world is currently being built, I believe, in Kenya or an adjacent nation. And this is because energy is abundant in those places. What they don't have is a way to basically bootstrap the giant, vast amounts of capital that are required to do that. And they also need, it's a chicken and egg problem. You can't build energy infrastructure if you don't have people to buy it from you. Bitcoin doesn't care where in the world it is happening.
Just give it to me.
Yeah, you just want, we don't care if it's in the middle of Africa with a minimal infrastructure. If we can connect to one of those Elon Musk space satellites, we can consume a mega dam's worth of energy at will. And this is a mechanism to finance vast energy build out in underdeveloped nations. That's just one angle of many.
Or another angle is that Bitcoin can help finance renewable energy projects like solar and wind, so that you don't need government subsidies to finance those projects.
And then obviously, you know, we've talked about this in the past shows. There's quite a bit of Bitcoin miners just looking around for you know, with a new change of address form, just looking for a home. So it's great. So the next question we'd go into is, all right, so Tarantino this backwards here. Why are Bitcoin miners using energy in the first place?
That's great. I feel like we should have addressed that at the top.
Yeah.
We go back, and each show we kind of hit this again from a different angle. So it's people ask, well, what secures Bitcoin? And I like to say, well, it's secured by many things, one of which is energy itself. Bitcoin's security model has many layers. One of those layers is saying, in order to attack Bitcoin or in order to produce or secure Bitcoin, it requires energy. And energy is this tie to the physical world. And the energy we run through computers. Those computers do calculations and compute. And if you want to challenge or attack Bitcoin or hack it, you got to produce more energy and more compute. To the average person, this is kind of a big concept, but it's just the short, TLDR, the short one-liner is energy is what secures Bitcoin.
Well, and contrast that with the U.S. dollar, it doesn't need energy to be created, and therefore it's created without limit, and it's centralized. And Bitcoin fixes this.
So this is an interesting topic, and we've got probably 3 minutes before we got to go to break. But what is the deal with power plants and energy production? So what happens if, like, let's say power plants integrate Bitcoin mining? Does that fall into kind of what we talked about earlier?
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing this happen. There's a great company named Stronghold Digital up, I believe, in New York or somewhere outside of that, where a power plant is, again, another complex operation. And it's very expensive. So power plants typically have to ramp up and down depending on what they anticipate the demand being. More people use energy at, say, 2 p.m. in the afternoon than they do at, like, 2 a.m. So it's expensive typically for these power plants to ramp up and down, but they don't really have any other option. With Bitcoin, it's interesting. It's imagine you take that curve of energy production and demand, and now you just make it a flat line, because where energy demand is lower, where it's less profitable for the power plant to produce that energy, they can run at 100% 24/7. Now, this is theoretical. We're only seeing a few early versions of this, but we know this can be done, and there are people building this kind of thing integrated on the power plant side. The issue is these are highly regulated entities. This is very complex. It's very capital intensive, but this is the future we're heading towards.
So do you think that this won't be more prominent in the conversation, national conversation, or even in your local municipalities until regulation is formed?
I think until people see it done successful, there are some people who are doing it unsuccessfully, and some people are doing it across the varying degrees of success, and we're going to learn and iterate on that. A lot of this really comes down to where do people want it to happen. I think we'll see varying by jurisdiction. Certain jurisdictions embrace this and long-term flourish, and certain jurisdictions drag their heels and eventually come around because there's no better way to do this.
Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like in Texas, they're really embracing this. And this winter, they were knocking off Bitcoin miners to make sure the grid stayed stable. And they're basically the first year they've really tried to do this. It worked beautiful. So I think other states will be watching that.
Okay, so Brian, we got to go to break here shortly, but you're hearing us talking about this subject, and Charlie and Andrew have excellent points, but is this a new dynamic that you're hearing about Bitcoin mining?
Huge. I think, power and Bitcoin, power usage is something that, states should consider.
Yeah. Well, okay, you guys have been listening to a really fascinating conversation. So if you're listening to the show on the radio, hey, do me a favor, stay put. But I also want you to call up a friend who might find this fascinating. Tell them to tune in. And, if you're listening online, whether it's YouTube or Google or Spotify or any of these other platforms, I want you to be a part of the conversation. Like, share, comment, get involved. Let us know what you think, because the more feedback we get, the better shows that we can make. So no matter what platform you're using, go ahead, do me a favor, and like, subscribe, and share. And guess what? We have so much more to unpack. So please stay put as we continue this conversation about Bitcoin and energy. What does it mean to be physically, spiritually, and financially free? The right to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness, these were the ideas that made America. But what happens to these ideas when America's money becomes compromised? What do you do when the very thing that you're working for day after day is fundamentally designed to enslave you? Whether it was a conspiracy or not, you won't believe what is about to happen in this country. Arm yourself today with the truth and build your life on the foundations for liberty. Rediscover freedom in the 21st century and grab a copy of my Amazon best-selling book, Foundations for Liberty. For just $11.99, you can support this radio show by finding a copy on Amazon or by going to mattjmoore.com. Again, that's mattjmoore.com. Don't wait, because freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. Do you have a strategy to obtain Bitcoin on a regular basis? Do you plan to automate your dollar cost averaging? What about getting all or part of your paycheck in Bitcoin? GetHedge.io is revolutionizing how you get paid. Hedge makes it easy to automatically convert your pay into Bitcoin. Whether you're an employer or employee, you can get started in 4 easy steps. Start getting paid in Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin. The great part about using Hedge is you can skip the exchange experience altogether and have your Bitcoin sent directly to a wallet you control. Self-custody is key, and GetHedge is giving you the power. Hedge is here to make it easy to stack those sats month after month. Bitcoin, it's a long-term play, so what are you waiting for? Start living on the Hedge, and don't forget to let them know that you heard about Hedge from Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. Use my referral link at mattjmoore.com, or you can go to gethedge.io. Again, that's gethedge.io.
Short-form video content is taking over social media, and with only seconds to capture someone's attention, our team can help you stand out from the crowd. At Sooner Marketing Solutions, we'll produce and publish engaging TikToks, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. If you feel like you're falling to the wayside and missing out on the exposure that you deserve, click the link in the description to get Sooner results now.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-262-4182. 800-262-4182. That's 800-262-4182.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, America. It's round 2 of America's Bitcoin Focus Radio Show. And whether you're a Bitcoin lover, newbie, or expert, we've got a little bit of something for everybody. And I want to welcome even those who may disagree with Bitcoin. Hopefully we can win some of you over, because, hey, this show, Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore, is made for everybody, even those who might be a hater. But, we want you to know that this is one of the only syndicated radio shows that's dedicated to this topic of Bitcoin, and we're literally hashing things out, no pun intended. But it's a show where you're going to learn about money, energy, liberty, history, technology, and today we're talking about the environment. What does it mean? And so people talk about the viability of things like Bitcoin's energy consumption and the potential future that it might create. Is this going to be the green revolution that we need, or is it a doomsday network that will drive us that much closer to an environmental Armageddon? There's a lot of people that are debating both sides of that, but we've been answering these questions from our perspective. And, for real though, here's what I want you to think about. People really need to factor in and consider this subject, because, the mainstream narrative, in my opinion, I think is missing some important factors when it comes to environment, energy, Bitcoin mining. And, we're going to talk that through, maybe share some ideas that are new to you. So stick around, because today we're going to try to clear the air, no pun intended, but you just might be surprised about what we have to say here. And to help me carry this conversation is none other than my wonderful co-host, Eric Cooper. Eric, thanks for being here for round 2.
Hey, absolutely. And, this is a great topic because, again, when I talk about, what people see, read, the suggested articles, when you open a browser up on your telephone, you're looking at a lot of uneducated title grabbers, clickbait, and there's a lot of misinformation around this. So, guys, in studio, we have Chartered Financial Analyst Andrew Ryan. Andrew, welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me.
And then we also have the man from Nakamoto Partners, Charlie Spears. And this is a man that I've shared a few drinks with in Miami at the Bitcoin conferences. Charlie, how you feeling, sir?
I feel great. I'm still recovering from those drinks.
It's almost been a year. So I'm going to throw one question for you guys because, again, I talk about this, the clickbait articles. Everybody wants to do renewable energy. You talking about solar, wind power. How does Bitcoin mining help with this effort? As far as like solar power, wind power, things like this.
Well, solar power and wind power are great and they're low cost, but their biggest problem, of course, is that the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. And so on the supply side, it's very variable and it's very hard to control. You don't have any control of it really. Bitcoin mining is beautifully matched with that supply because it can be ramped up and down on a minute by minute basis. And so that can help stabilize the grid. Furthermore, Bitcoin mining can help finance those projects because it can be a buyer of first resort and it can be a base load demand that they can count on, but they can turn off whenever they want. And that's really powerful. We've never had anything like it.
And it's not something we're just saying can and could. This is happening already. If you look at the current energy makeup by energy source of the Bitcoin mining activity across the world, it appears that it is the most green industrial practice by green energy makeup as compared to any other kind of practice. We said aluminum smelting, other data centers,
right?
Any manufacturing or anything like that. Bitcoin mining, according to Cambridge, they do an ongoing study. They are the de facto authority on this. It has about between 40 to 60% wide error margin of renewable energy, which powers the whole thing. And this is not because of some government directive that says you can only use renewable energy. This is because it naturally plugs into this.
Right. Yeah, the incentive structure is there. We hear a lot about Bitcoin using a lot of energy and will continue to grow in its power consumption. And some people are worried. Some people aren't. In fact, there's actually, I think it's some information out there that's saying that Bitcoin mining, despite it using a lot of energy, still doesn't use as much as the combined washers and dryers in America. Is that true?
That sounds about right. I've heard that Bitcoin mining uses about as much energy as Christmas lights, and I think those should be banned too.
Destroying the environment.
Here's the thing. If people don't like something, such as Bitcoin, they will come up with anything. But the fact is, and I think we should delve into this a little bit, I think Bitcoin will do more good for the environment in the next 25 years than anything that a government could come up with, hands down. So,
yeah, the numbers are roughly, Christmas lights are washer and dryers in just North America, roughly about the same amount. I'd like to say this, okay, well, all the other data centers around the world, just North American data centers, your Googles, your YouTube, your Amazon, AWS, those energy use dwarfs that of Bitcoin mining today. We don't even consider the moral validity of a YouTube video criticizing the use of Bitcoin mining's energy use, which is hosted on a Google data center, which does not use as much renewable energy.
Right.
They buy renewable energy credits, and then it's hosted on there forever, criticizing for the teapot for being too black or whatever. So it's same thing.
Well, and Bitcoin is inherently sustainable in the sense that it's a better money that causes people to save their capital and to invest long term in their environment, in their families,
right.
In their companies, and so it's really the ultimate sustainable money.
Right.
Guys, if we get rid of Christmas lights, like lawn and garden people will have nothing to do during the winter. So there's just saying that.
We have to keep Christmas lights, Andrew.
Right.
I'm so sorry.
No, so
Fine.
another fun thing here is obviously right now, Bitcoin is going to evolve, right? We always talk around here that we're still early. If you're listening to this right now and you're driving and you're staring at your Cash App or PayPal or whatever exchange that you're looking at, thinking, do I plunge in here and buy my first one? You should. It's still early. And so Bitcoin is going to continue to evolve, especially with this energy consumption. Does that mainstream narrative of Bitcoin being the environmental villain, is that going to stay, or is that going to eventually change and we're going to see something else?
Oh man, this one's a doozy. I don't really know. I think it'll probably have different treatment depending on where you are in the world. I think long-term, countries and jurisdictions which embrace Bitcoin mining will dramatically outcompete those who don't from an infrastructure standpoint. I come from the world of oil and gas, controversial industry, but also the backbone of the American economy. And I'm very critical of seemingly unreasonable actions and public statements at the national level. And so I never doubt our politicians' ability to misdirect or misunderstand. So I don't know. I'm advocating for, just in my backyard here in Oklahoma and Texas, for these jurisdictions to embrace Bitcoin mining. And I really hope that we can show other less friendly jurisdictions like New York or say some countries in Europe that this actually is really good. You can put all these studies which are fundamentally flawed together, which are critical of it, or we can show empirically that this actually does do what you want.
Andrew?
So the issue isn't energy use. You really should focus on energy wasted. And right now, without any Bitcoin, huge amounts of energy is wasted through electrical distribution, all kinds of. There's lots of different ways, and Bitcoin can be kind of like a cockroach or something where it just crawls around the world and looks for the cheapest, most stranded, most wasted energy and plugs into that, and so it can expand the pie of energy, which is good for it's good for everything, because a lot of that energy is being made and wasted right now already.
I'm going to break out my topographical map analogy. I
Okay.
think this is one of the best visualizations. I'm going to try to do it over the radio here. So if you've looked at a topographical map of the world where you've got, peaks and valleys, and imagine that shows the gradient and elevation of different places on a map. If we pretend that the world is a topographical map where the peaks are energy consuming areas like a city or a manufacturing area, and the valleys are where that energy is not in demand, say a vast rural area where that's not very inhabited. What Bitcoin mining does is it takes it doesn't matter where the energy is produced or demanded. Bitcoin mining wants to go to the place where it's least valued. So Bitcoin mining goes into those valleys on that topographical map, and it's almost like you have that map and you pour a giant glass of water over it, and it fills that map up to this constant level. So long term, over the decades to come, we will see what is effectively a liquid global market for energy. So a joule or watt on the steppes of Mongolia will be able to be sold to market and just as valuable to society as a joule or watt in the center of New York City.
And the reason this happens is because Bitcoin mining is a ruthlessly global competitive market, and if you can find cheaper energy than someone else, you can push them out. And
So in an abstract way, one way to look at Bitcoin mining is that it's a vehicle in which that it is monetizing energy and allowing you to move it from point A to point B where you maybe couldn't before.
Yeah, what are some historical examples? The internal combustion engine, the railroads, the cotton gin, the printing press. These are ways of transporting energy and which radically changed society. And I think that's why my company, I will shill it, is called Nakamoto or Satoshi Nakamoto's motor, which is this mechanism to bootstrap human flourishing.
Okay, so we know that the White House recently published I think it was a study or some kind of collection of sources and papers on Bitcoin's impact on the environment, I think loosely if I remember correctly. But I also recall that the sources they were using were not very good. And a lot of the people in the Bitcoin community were like, this is all hogwash. Do you guys remember that?
I read about it. It was basically some of the references were from people that aren't academic researchers, and their data is pretty suspect.
Yeah, specifically the work of Alex DeVries, who is a constantly cited person for the Digit Economist, which is a multiple times over refuted finger quotes research publication funded by the World Bank.
All right. So along with that on the federal side, from the state side, Cynthia Lemus and other states seem to be a little bit more understanding of this Bitcoin energy narrative more than the federal government. Why?
Well, I was just thinking, states also tend to balance their budgets too. So, just take that for what's worth. But I feel like it's a political question, and it could change in the future. And it seems like the states that are the best run tend to be most open towards Bitcoin mining and understanding all the benefits.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why. I think I think about path dependency of a narrative, and I feel like this particular topic could have gone either way. I think because Bitcoin was early championed by libertarians and free market focused people, that just made people who were progressive fundamentally opposed to it. And I think that's very unfortunate, because I think it's arbitrary how these political affiliations have aligned themselves with it. Right. I think Bitcoin is pro-freedom and pro-environment.
So let's dive into this. How does Bitcoin fit into this ESG narrative that is so popular right now, especially with corporations? What are your thoughts on that, guys?
Well, first of all, let's define ESG as environmental, social, and governance. I would say that Bitcoin can help save the environment. It can. It's socially good because it's permissionless and open to everyone, race or gender or even maybe someday species. And its governance is great because it's has perfectly defined rules that are enforced globally, and there's no one in control of Bitcoin.
Yeah, ESG is a curious thing. I'm going to show my colors. I've never really liked it. I've always kind of enjoyed the spirit of it, but I don't like how it's implemented domestically in the U.S. There was a ton of capital just allocated, and a ton of regulation the past decade saying ESG, you've got to deploy money, you've got to make regulation, you got to do this. And it's kind of under the big ESG umbrella. And a lot of that, especially the past couple of years, has proven quite void of like meaning, and it seems to be, it's very poorly deployed. In fact, some of the fundamental assumptions of it are wrong. And the world, actually, interestingly enough, right now is looking to cash flowing assets.
Right.
And so if you're in energy, you've heard the winds shift from ESG to energy resilience, which is a little bit of environmentally focused, but it's also like it's more just we need to secure our energy. And Bitcoin mining, it is cash flow. It's a cash flow business. It's an industry, and it is embedded into the energy production and distribution itself. So it checks all the boxes. And then I also think, I don't want to totally throw, the ESG movement out. I reject how it kind of manifests itself, but like Bitcoin mining can be like the true meaning, or like what the goal of ESG was. It can be realized in Bitcoin mining.
Well, yeah, to that point, there's all this misunderstanding of Bitcoin mining. And I think a lot of that misunderstanding comes from this fiat mindset that's being, utilized, or this narrative being spewed by a set of corporations, or a type of corpocracy that's taking place that is undermining the true spirit, like kind of what you were saying, of ESG. Would you guys concur?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
He gave us a thumbs up, right? All right, Andrew. I was waiting on Andrew.
I don't want to co-opt this into like me railing.
Okay,
ESG. I'm trying to rein it in, because I'm from oil and gas. I'm kind of bitter. It's been a hard decade, man.
At the same time. All right, so how about this, Charlie? Do you see a day where you have a climate activist going in the Google search and the map search and trying to find a Bitcoin mine and strapping themselves to the Bitcoin mine? I'm kind of serious, because that could also lead to risk management for you and your company. Do you need to worry about people, dropping a bomb on a Bitcoin mine?
we specifically crafted a line item in our insurance policy against environmental terrorism against our Bitcoin mine. So you can say we are thinking adversarially.
Wow.
But the flip side is environmentalists should look at Bitcoin as their best ally in actually helping the environment and helping bring renewables into use.
Remember what I said, just because you can doesn't mean that you should.
Well, so okay, the real question is, who is driving this Bitcoin energy narrative, and how do Bitcoiners lead the conversation instead?
I think it's driven just by most people not knowing the purpose of Bitcoin. Okay. I really think the best way to respond to this is, like, I want to justify energy usage, but I realize that's kind of a battle that the lines have been drawn, decisions have been made up. I think the best way to talk about it is rather in justifying Bitcoin's purpose. And then the energy becomes kind of self-evident. We see this across pretty much every other concept. Christmas lights. Nobody cares about Christmas lights energy usage because we like them. I think we'll see the same thing with Bitcoin. And I'll say that, we're biased by, the USA. Bitcoin does not have to succeed in the U.S. in order for it to succeed its goal.
Okay, well, and fiat money is guaranteed by kinetic war machinery, and so Bitcoin spends electricity so that it doesn't have to have warships to defend its currency from attack.
Well, guys, we are getting ready to go to break, but if you're sitting in the car and you're listening to the show and you're like, whoa, my mind is blown because these are entirely new concepts. I'm trying to wrap my head around this Bitcoin mining and energy thing. You guys are making some really good points, but hey, call up a friend, tell them to tune in because this is great information, and I want you to stay put because we've got even more great content coming. And if you're listening to this show online with any of our platforms, whether it be Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, comment, share, like, get this stuff out there because this is what's going to change the narrative. This is what's going to get people to truly understand the evolution that we're going through. So again, do me a favor. Get into the conversation. Share, subscribe. Let me know what you think. What do you think about these concepts? Are we crazy or are we making some good points? All right, we're going to be right back with more fun conversation. The sun, beaches, parties, education, and Bitcoin. This is the recipe for Bitcoin 2023, the largest Bitcoin conference in the world. Ever thought about meeting industry experts? It's the who's who of Bitcoin, and you can't miss it. Join us in Miami, Florida for the annual Bitcoin conference. Use my promo code BTC Radio at checkout. That's BTC Radio. Learn more at mattjmoore.com.
Okay, I'm talking funny because I'm in the witness protection program. I have too much credit card debt and I don't want people to find me.
Okay, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about credit card debt. Right, those plastic things that we all have in our wallet. Are you in your 50s or 60s and you're still carrying around a mound of credit card debt? Wouldn't it be nice to start banking that money and save a little money for retirement down the road? We help people restructure their credit card debt all the time. We show people how they can get out of credit card debt in months, not years. Listen, you'll be carrying around credit card debt for the rest of your life unless you deal with it right now. We offer a free consultation so you can learn how you can finally wipe out your credit card debt and start saving money. Give us a free call right now.
Call Debt Solutions Network now. 800-593-0298. 800-593-0298. That's 800-593-0298.
Do you have a strategy to obtain Bitcoin on a regular basis? Do you plan to automate your dollar cost averaging? What about getting all or part of your paycheck in Bitcoin? GetHedge.io is revolutionizing how you get paid. Hedge makes it easy to automatically convert your pay into Bitcoin. Whether you're an employer or employee, you can get started in 4 easy steps. Start getting paid in Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Litecoin. The great part about using Hedge is you can skip the exchange experience altogether and have your Bitcoin sent directly to a wallet you control. Self-custody is key, and GetHedge is giving you the power. Hedge is here to make it easy to stack those sats month after month. Bitcoin, it's a long-term play, so what are you waiting for? Start living on the Hedge, and don't forget to let them know that you heard about Hedge from Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. Use my referral link at mattjmoore.com, or you can go to gethedge.io. Again, that's gethedge.io.
Short-form video content is taking over social media, and with only seconds to capture someone's attention, our team can help you stand out from the crowd. At Sooner Marketing Solutions, we'll produce and publish engaging TikToks, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts. If you feel like you're falling to the wayside and missing out on the exposure that you deserve, click the link in the description to get Sooner results now.
All right, and we are back, and I want to welcome you, America, because you are in the right spot. That's right, you are here, round 3 for America's Bitcoin-focused radio show, and whether you are a Bitcoin lover, newbie, or expert, we have made this show for you. We want to welcome everybody, because the truth is we made this show, Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore, for everybody. And so I hope if you're tuning into this and you're new to the topic, you'll stick around, maybe learn some things, because this is one of the only syndicated radio shows that I know that's dedicated to the topic of Bitcoin, and we cover a lot of different topics. But on this episode specifically, we've been unpacking this idea of how does Bitcoin fit into the greener future for the world? I mean, and that's a real question that a lot of people have. Or is the truth, is it really going to be significantly bad? Can it ruin us long term, and it's an interesting conversation that we're having. And to help us close out this show is, again, none other than my very own man of mystery, Eric Cooper. Eric, welcome to part 3 of the show. You ready to close this out strong, man?
Absolutely. And if you're listening right now and you're one of the experts, you're probably thinking like, I got so many things I disagree or agree with you on. Or if you're new, you're probably thinking like they're saying things like I just don't understand. Go to Google, search Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. We've got tons of content. We've been doing this well over a year now, and so you can come on and learn, from just what is money and a lot of cool concepts that we talk about in the history of the show. So we are talking with from Nakamoto Partners, Charlie Spears, and our chartered financial analyst Andrew Ryan. He runs our Bitcoin meetups here locally. Guys, I got a question, because I mean, when it all boils down to this, there is a narrative around here, and how do you guys see the geopolitical landscape shaping up when it comes to energy, when it comes to Bitcoin?
Well, I think we're going to be surprised in the next 5, definitely 10 years. I think you're going to start seeing oil and natural gas traded for Bitcoin, and the reason is, imagine if you're Russia, you don't want to be selling your hard assets like natural gas and oil for US dollars that melt away at 15-20% a year on a real practical basis. You want to trade hard asset for hard asset. So I think on the non-electricity side, that's going to be a big transformation by the end of this decade. And then on the electricity side, of course, like we've been talking, I think Bitcoin mining will become an amazing, an integral part of every energy grid around the world to help stabilize it, to help build out renewables, and which will help the environment.
Charlie, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, as the world becomes more political and as trade becomes more political and the world becomes more multipolar, the currency which has dominated the world my entire life, the dollar, the petrodollar system, you have countries seeking for alternates, and gold is a very compelling alternate. You see countries stockpiling gold. Not every country has gold. So what are the other countries who don't have a reserve currency? They're not part of these multipolar, countries. What do they settle in? I think we'll see 1 and then 2 and 3 or 4 and more countries start taking a little Bitcoin. And nobody ever goes back on that. They only increase their exposure to it.
Right. No, that's a good point. I mean, we had Greg Foss on last week, and he was saying that, Canada has no gold. And so, hey, Canada, start buying some Bitcoin. But okay, let's dive into this. Do you guys think that national security in relation to Bitcoin mining eventually changes that perception of Bitcoin's energy consumption if nation states start making it part of their strategic efforts?
Well, I think since Bitcoin may be the next world reserve currency, you really can't have national security without Bitcoin and without making that a major part of your economy.
Yeah. Charlie, got any input on that?
I think I keep going back to this point that I think nations who embrace Bitcoin will outcompete those who don't long term.
Right.
And that's because it's not necessarily that Bitcoin's price is going to go up, although I do think it will. I just think there are so many ancillary advantages to having it embedded in your nation's infrastructure. A nation's wealth comes from its energetic source. And so the countries who are able to leverage their domestic energy and their domestic resources best will outcompete those who don't on a long timeline.
And the game theory is that the earlier adopters will get the most out of Bitcoin, because I know we don't like to say Bitcoin, isn't going to go up for sure, but historically that's what it does. And there's built-in fundamental reasons that I believe it might continue to do that.
And so if you guys are just now tuning in, we've been talking about the narrative around Bitcoin and its negative viewpoint on energy consumption. So guys, just give us again for your summarized take on why Bitcoin mining and energy consumption, it's a good thing for the world.
Bitcoin mining leverages energy and increases human flourishing. People say, it's bad that Bitcoin mining uses the energy comparable to that of the country of Sweden. And I say, okay, well, that also means in order to attack the Bitcoin network for 10 minutes, you have to get Sweden to turn off all their energy, and then you win one block.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll do it.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin will help financing renewable projects like wind and solar. And not only that, it's really a great match for wind and solar's intermittent supply. Bitcoin can be an intermittent demand.
Right. Now, okay, this is a little bit more of a local question, but we run Tulsa Bitcoin meetups here in town. How's that going, and what do you guys got planned next?
Gosh, I'm amazed. Bitcoin took an 80% nosedive this past year, and people still show up to the meetups. This is the thing. I know we're talking about Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you're probably in LA, Seattle, Atlanta, but there are local meetups in those areas, and I can just encourage you that if you think this show is interesting or you want to learn more, find a local meetup in your town. I guarantee you there is one. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, we're doing them. We're focused on education. And then, honestly, it's kind of like commiseration. The Bitcoin price is down. It's up on the month, though, baby. So,
right.
Yeah.
Andrew?
Yeah, we're optimistic. We're always optimistic at these meetups, and we're just there to learn and teach and find out more about Bitcoin.
Well, if people are listening to the show and they really liked what you guys had to say, and they wanted to maybe follow your work or get in contact with you, where would they go?
I'm Andrew Ryan. I'm on Twitter finally after many years of not being on there. I'm at ACRyan7, also on Facebook at the Tulsa Bitcoin Meetup.
I point people to my Twitter at CB Spears, although because of a different topic in Bitcoin, my DMs are RIP. So I've reached inbox escape velocity, but find me on there. I'd love to talk.
That's because you guys are doing so much. But Eric, what about you? You need to share your Twitter as well.
Yeah, and you can find me at Coopride82. That's COOPRIDE 82. And I used to lead mountain bike excursions, and so it was more popular back then.
Okay. Well, Brian is our producer. He's here in studio. And if you liked those awesome intros and outros, you can always check his work out well, actually, I'll let him tell you. Where can they find your work, Brian?
You can find me at beyondyouproductions.com or SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever, Spotify, Apple Music. So.
As somebody who is not actively thinking about energy, did any of this pique your curiosity?
Definitely. How the integration with sustainable energy, Bitcoin mining, it's all very interesting. So. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I want to encourage all of you, if you're listening to this program, please, this is an important topic. People need to wrap their head around this whole energy thing, because yes, we're talking about magic internet money, but it's way, way more than that. It's actually going to revolutionize the world and in energy consumption. In fact, would you guys concur, Charlie and Andrew, are energy companies going to be like one in like, how are they going to relate to Bitcoin in essence? Are they going to be, is it the industry, Bitcoin industry and energy industry, is it all going to be kind of lumped together?
I think the big question is, are Bitcoin miners going to buy energy producers, or are energy producers going to buy Bitcoin miners? We're headed towards a merger. I mean, it's the first analogy that comes to mind, but you've got like Sears and Amazon, right? One is the future, one is the past. Right. And it's not necessarily like neither will exist. I think rather we'll see them coalesce. And I think this idea of differentiating between what's a Bitcoin mine and what's an energy producer will get very blurry. That's what my company's thesis is on. We are mining Bitcoin at an oil and gas well, and it's both environmentally friendly and synergistic. So that's how we do it.
All right. Well, this has been Cryptocurrency with Matthew J. Moore. Until next time, my friends, we are going to see you next week, the same time, same place. And remember, Bitcoin is literally changing the world. I don't want you to get left behind. That's why I want you to join us every single week and learn how to prepare for this new digital age. We'll see you guys next time.